Hi everyone, I'm Avdesh God. In this video, we'll explore the visualizations beyond Show Me. We'll start off with a step-by-step guide on how to build thermometer charts in Tableau. Well, let's get started. Before that, let's have a quick look on how thermometer charts can be utilized. The very most appropriate use can be to depict the temperatures and have a comparative view on the same. Herein, we are looking at a visualization built for Makeover Monday, Week 3. The topic was Is Earth Really Warming? And we are having a look at the average global temperatures of month by month from 1880 to 2020 in Fahrenheit. Well, this is a combination of both northern and southern hemisphere. So that's why you can see March and October are sort of having the highest average global temperature. Well, let's have a closer look on how we can build this. Let's replicate this with the Superstore dataset. Before that, let's quickly connect to the same. To build the thermometer chart, we'll require to go through the data densification process. To do so, let's go to the Data Source tab and union the same table with itself. As of now, we have duplicated the data and we are having two rows corresponding to each row in the sample Superstore dataset. This data duplication indeed will provide us with an opportunity to build the start and end points, wherein the records from the first table in the union will act as a start point, and the records in the second table of the union will certainly act as the endpoints. If we look closely in the data pane, we have got a new field called the table name. This is a result of the union of the same order table that we have just now created. Let us temporarily pull this table name dimension onto the rows to have a look at the second table name. Tableau has created this field with all the entries as order for all the records coming from the first order table and for all the records coming from the second unioned orders table. The table name is orders 1. Let us quickly create a calculation to create the start and end point of our bins that we are going to use in order to create the thermometer charts. For all the records belonging to the order tables, we'll have this path bin set to 1, whereas for all the records belonging to the other table, that is orders 1, in the union, the path value will be 101. Let's save this path calculation. We are going to densify the data using this calculation to create a bin, and we'll have virtual 101 points then. This densified data will eventually be utilized to build the thermometer. To create the bin, right-click on the calculated field path, go to Create, and select Bins. Let's select the size of the bin as 1, so that we have 100 bins from 1 to 101 with a size of 1. In order to create the underlying skeleton of this thermometer chart, we'll require some mathematical calculations that will basically be deriving the thermometer from bottom till the top. Let's quickly create some of these calculations. Go to drop down and select Create Calculated Field. Let's name this calculation as index -1. The contents of it will be utilizing the index function -1. Let's save it. This index function will eventually be used to build this thermometer background that is brown in color. To start building the chart, let us clear the sheet first. Let us drag category to the column shelf. Along with that, let's drag the index -1 calculation to the row shelf and path bin as well to the row shelf. Now here we have the start and end point of the thermometer, which will be built by this bin number 1 and 101. In order to include all other points between 1 and 101, go to the path of bin and check Show Missing Values. This will eventually cover all the points between 1 and 101, and the same we can see over here. This is what we call the data densification, wherein we cover all the points between the bins that we have created from 1 to 101, and initially those bins were created using unioning of the tables in the first go. Let's move close to the thermometer skeleton by changing the mark type to line and moving the path bin to the path shelf in the marks card. Moreover, let's compute the index -1 available over the row shelf using the path field. We have come close to the initial skeleton required for the thermometer chart. Let us quickly create some more calculated fields that will require further down the line in order to build this chart. Select the drop-down and go to Create Calculated Field. Let's name this as WinMax. What we are doing over here is selecting the window maximum for each category out of the sum of sales. We'll create one more field, which is the multiplication of Windows maximum and index -1 fields that we have already created. We'll drag the multiple field over to the rows and compute the same using the path bin. Now we need to create one last calculation that will be required to build the final chart. Let's name it Boolean. Also create a copy of the same by right-clicking on it and select Duplicate. Now all we need to do is set the size of the index -1 marks card by using the Boolean field. To do so, let's drag the field over the size shelf in the index -1 marks card. We can see in the first chart wherein the index marks card is being used, the bulb of the thermometer has popped up. Let's select the size accordingly. We need to repeat the same for the multiple marks card, but by using the copy of Boolean. Let's select the size for the multiple marks card somewhat smaller than that of the index -1. Reason being, when we'll convert it into a dual axis, the second chart will be overlapping the first one. If we correlate to the chart that we have initially seen, the gray portion will be built by the first chart, whereas the red portion will be built by the second one. Let's make this chart a dual axis and also synchronize the axes. Now, there seems something wrong. Over here, we have all the charts having the same height for the background, whereas the thermometer, or you can say the mercury within the thermometer, is having different heights, depicting the temperatures. But over here, we do not have the background having the same height. Reason being, if we go a step back by using undo, then we can see that the index is having a range from 0 to 110, but the multiple over here, which is utilizing the sales measure, is having a range from 0 to 80 millions. So that's why we need to normalize the right axis from a range of 0 to 100. Let's redo it for the time being. The multiple axis is driven by the multiple field. In order to normalize this axis in a range of 0 to 100, we need to normalize the multiple field. Let's right click and edit this field. In order to normalize this field, we need to know the maximum value. Right click on the axis and select Edit Axis. Go to Fixed and copy this value. Go to Automatic again and close the dialog box. We are following the same unitary method that we used to follow in the primary classes. Divide the value by the maximum of the already existing value and multiply it with the value or the range that we want it to convert to. As we want to normalize it in a range of 0 to 100, so we'll multiply it by 100 and divide it by the value that we already copied. Let us remove the commas from over here. Well, this calculation is valid and we are ready to go. Hit apply, and over here, if you see, the multiple axis has been normalized and been converted from 0 to 100. Moreover, we can also see the background over here that is right now blue in color. The thermometer chart is almost ready. All we need to do is apply some formatting. Let us increase the width a little bit. We need to increase the size of the top of the thermometer bar. To do so, go to the Boolean size mark and select Edit Size. We have got a slider over here. The very first slider will increase the size of the thermometer background. We can hit apply to see. How it reflects. Let us increase this a little bit. The second slider will increase the size of the bulb at the bottom. Well, this looks good. Let's hit OK. Now we need to increase the size of the center element that is right now orange in color. To do so, edit the size of the second size card. Here also, the same notion is followed by these two sliders. We'll move the first one to increase the size of the body of the thermometer. Well, this looks better. Let's hit OK to close this. Now all we need to do is change the color to reflect to the already existing color scheme that we saw earlier. Let us select a shade of gray for the background, and for the front bar, let us select a shade of red. At the end, if we want, we can turn on the labels by putting the sales over to the label shelf. We can also hide the excess by unselecting or unchecking the show headers. And last but not the least, we can also format the chart to remove all the excess. Well, this is what we were looking forward for. In this video, we visualize the thermometer chart right from scratch. In the next one, we learn about the bump charts.